Right now on Morning News Now, executive action. President Biden set to sign a sweeping order that would allow him to temporarily shut down the southern border. The move marks an about-face for Biden, who criticized a similar plan while running for office. So what's behind the change and how exactly would it work? We are diving in. Plus, opening statements are expected today in Hunter Biden's historic federal gun trial. The younger Biden becoming the first child of a sitting president to be criminally tried. What we know about the jurors who were sworn in yesterday, what the White House is saying, and who we could see take the stand. Plus, the fight over reproductive rights takes center stage in Congress. The new legislative package aimed at protecting contraception and IVF, and the impact it could have as voters head to the ballot box. And the heat is on as we mark 1 year of consecutive record-breaking temperatures outside. Americans are feeling the heat inside their wallets. Why the hotter weather could mean you are shelling out more cold, hard cash. That's a conversation, of course, as we head right toward summer. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for being here today. Joe is off, so you're just with me. We're going to begin this morning in Washington as the White House is preparing to announce an aggressive new plan to address the ongoing crisis at the southern border. President Biden is expected to sign an executive order today that would temporarily shut down the border when daily migrant crossings exceed 2,500. It would reopen when the number falls below 1,500. This is according to 3 people who are familiar with these discussions. Well, NBC News exclusively reported the details of the executive order last month. The order is expected to rely on a U.S. code that would let the president suspend the entry of specific groups of migrants whenever attempted border crossings grew too high, as we just outlined. For more on what we can expect, to lead us off this morning, we are joined by NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba and NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. She's in Mission, Texas, at the southern border. Good morning to both of you. Monica, I'll begin with you to quickly just walk us through the details of this executive order President Biden is expected to sign today. What should we know about it?
So what's really important about this is that this is actually a provision that was going to be a part of the bipartisan border bill that the White House and Senate Republicans worked on for months. They were hoping to really put this and enshrine this in legislation because they thought that that would have given the president more clear congressional authority to temporarily shut down the border. But when that effort failed, the White House essentially went back to the drawing board, specifically with this idea. And they have now for weeks been trying to craft what they think could hopefully, in their view, stand up in court when it comes to this idea of temporarily shutting down the border to migrants who are crossing illegally at the U.S.-Mexico border when that daily encounters number between ports of entry exceeds 2,500. And we should point out that Department of Homeland Security officials right now on average say crossings are around 4,000. So in effect, once the president signs this, it could begin immediately, and then it would drop back down in that the border could reopen to those claims when we're seeing numbers that are closer to 1,500 a day. But they are expecting there could be legal challenges to this, and there are some questions about how it could work. But this is about the president trying to come out and say, we tried it in Congress, it didn't work, so I'm taking matters into my own hands with unilateral action.
But Julia, let's bring you in here because, it sounds like a plan on paper, but what is the latest on the ground at the southern border? How would this actually be enforced once the president signs this?
Well, the key thing to know is we talk about a border shutdown. We're not talking about the end of legitimate trade and travel. People can still come through those lanes going from Mexico to the U.S. and vice versa. And immigrants who sign up on the CBP1 app and go to a legitimate, the wildlife's waking up around here, go to a legitimate port of entry to claim asylum, they can still do that. What that stops is traffic at places just like this behind me. You see the border wall here, just about 100 feet beyond this wall. There's a bridge, the Anzalduas Bridge. Just about 2 years ago, we were here. There were hundreds of migrants under that bridge coming across, claiming asylum, and then starting what can be a multi-year process to an immigration court where a judge will ultimately decide whether or not they can stay in the U.S. or be deported. Under this, when that trigger goes into effect, as we expect it would do almost immediately because border numbers are already well over 2,500 a day. We would expect that any immigrant that crosses illegally in places like this would not be able to claim asylum. In fact, they would be sent back into Mexico or put on a fast track for deportation. And that is why we're hearing about it this week and not earlier, because we understand the Biden administration wanted to wait for Mexico to get through their elections last weekend before they announce this, because they know they're relying so heavily on Mexico in order to implement this. I will say, as a practical effect, though, we could see a quick lawsuit from immigration advocacy groups that will challenge this in court and join it, and then the Biden administration will be able to turn back to Republicans in Congress and say, look, we did our part, we tried, we need the authority from Congress.
Monica, this comes as polling shows that voters are not satisfied with the president's handling of the border. An NBC News poll from earlier this spring showed that more than 2/3 of registered voters disapprove, in fact, of his handling of the situation. What legal challenges, though, as Julia just touched on there, could Mr. Biden potentially face with this executive action, even though voters do apparently want to see some action?
Yeah, and this has been a political vulnerability for the president and the White House for a long time. It is a far cry, though, from what candidate Joe Biden promised to do when it came to immigration. He wanted to roll back and reverse much of these policies that were put into place by his predecessor, former President Trump. And now, because of the way that we are seeing polling and the reality, and of course, some of the changes of global migration patterns, the White House is saying, no, the president has to be firmer. He has to take more of these steps and be more aggressive. And we do expect there will be plenty of pushback from some progressive lawmakers and from some immigration advocacy groups. But we should point out that the White House tried for a long time to include important humanitarian carve-outs in this expected executive action. So unaccompanied minors who are traveling alone will be exempt from this. Also, those who might be subject to severe human trafficking will be exempt from this. So they tried to look at essentially what the Trump administration did was something similar to this, and they tried to improve it so that it would stand up in court, but they are still bracing for those legal challenges, as this incredibly thorny political issue is a big part of it. They also say that they have been working with Mexico. There has been so much diplomatic effort behind the scenes to try to get to this place that expect the president to say, we've been really working on this for months. It's the culmination of that, and there could be more steps. There could be a series of additional actions that the administration takes in the weeks to come, too. Savannah.
Julia, we know the mayors of border cities in Texas will be at today's announcement in Washington. Tell us the challenges these leaders face as they try to get a grip on the large number of border crossings. They are who are seeing this and dealing with this firsthand.
Well, often when we come down here to the border, we talk to mayors of cities like McAllen and El Paso, Texas, who say, look, we're overwhelmed. We need more help from the federal government. So it's a big win for Biden today to get some of those border mayors by his side, including the mayor of McAllen, which is just the neighboring city to where we are here in Mission. But there are some who said they couldn't come, said there were scheduling conflicts. It's not clear if that was because they disagree with this or they think that this is coming too little too late. But my producers have been in touch with those mayors, and they understand that the mayor of El Paso and of Yuma will not be attending today.
All right, Monica and Julia, thank you both very much for your reporting and for kicking us off this morning. Well, opening statements are expected to take place today in the trial against President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. The jury of 6 men and 6 women was selected and sworn in yesterday. Hunter Biden is facing 3 felony counts related to the 2018 purchase of a gun. He's pleaded not guilty to the charges after a plea deal fell apart last summer. And he does face up to 25 years behind bars if he's convicted. NBC News senior investigative producer Sarah Fitzpatrick joins us once again this morning from outside the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. Sarah, good morning. Let's start with that jury. They were selected yesterday in a process that was pretty quick, quicker than expected. What do we know about them and how this went?
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. The process went much faster than expected. They selected 6 men, 6 women, and 4 alternates for a jury that is expected to hear about 1 to 2 weeks of testimony. The jurors are a wide range, kind of a cross-section of American life. It's everything from recent graduates to retirees, a wide range of careers, and a wide range of life experience. And I think the key point that we saw in the selection is that these jurors all have personally experienced 2 issues, kind of 2 major themes that are going to be discussed throughout this case. 6 of them either own firearms or have family members that own firearms. And 4 of them have family members, close family members or close friends that struggled with addiction. So, we're going to see in this jury all of them are bringing personal experience to the trial. However, they all said in front of the judge that they could be impartial and would put their personal views aside.
Sarah, as I just mentioned, this was the first ever criminal trial of the child of a sitting president. Walk us through, knowing that it's unprecedented, what can we expect today in court? And once opening statements are through, do we know who will be the prosecution's first witness?
Yes. So this morning we expect it will start with some administrative kind of decisions by the judge. There were some late night filings about evidence that the defense is trying to get in front of the jury. It's still unclear whether or not a copy of the second gun form, the form that was ultimately kept on file at the gun store and submitted to the ATF as part of this investigation. So we'll hopefully get some resolution on that. And then we will hear from we're expected to hear from Prosecutor Derek Hines, who will do his opening arguments to the jury, lay out the prosecution's case. And then we will hear a response from Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, who will seek to kind of poke holes and undermine the prosecution's assertion that Hunter Biden knowingly filled out a federal form and that he was untruthful when he purchased that gun. After that is over, if there is still time, we expect to hear from the prosecution's first witness, which is an FBI agent. And she is going to be a really critical part of laying out this case, because she is going to be used to introduce a series of text messages, contemporaneous evidence and contemporaneous communications that Hunter Biden had with a wide range of individuals that prosecutors believe will demonstrate that he was an active drug user at the time.
Sarah Fitzpatrick, thank you very much. Of course, this all comes as First Lady Jill Biden and other members of the Biden family were in the courtroom yesterday. We'll see if that continues. Sarah, we appreciate your reporting. Well, this morning there's mounting pressure to reach a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. That's after dozens of Palestinians were killed in a new round of Israeli airstrikes on the already devastated enclave. The ongoing destruction comes as the IDF said 4 more hostages died while in Hamas captivity. NBC's international correspondent Raf Sanchez has the latest from Tel Aviv.
Hey there, the White House today really ramping up its effort to try to turn that ceasefire proposal into a reality. President Biden last night speaking to the Emir of Qatar, one of the key mediators throughout this crisis, and urging him to put pressure on Hamas to accept the deal. The president saying this deal must get done. Today, we're going to see Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, briefing the families of the American hostages on the latest on these ceasefire talks. We're also going to see Secretary Blinken at the State Department meeting with the Secretary General of the United Nations. That comes as the U.S. is trying to push a new resolution through the UN Security Council, calling for this ceasefire, calling for this hostage deal, and the U.S. hoping to get some rivals like Russia and China on board, saying the Security Council must speak with one voice. Now, there is a real sense of urgency about this because of the suffering in Gaza, because of the suffering of those Israeli hostages. Israeli attacks continuing across the Strip. Our team meeting a young boy with cerebral palsy. He needs surgery he cannot get in Gaza right now. His family just praying that there is a ceasefire so they can get him the medical treatment that he needs. Meanwhile, the IDF announcing that it has confirmed the deaths of 4 more Israeli hostages in Hamas captivity. 3 of them are men in their 80s. The IDF says it will investigate what it is calling difficult questions after Hamas made unconfirmed claims that all 4 of those hostages were in fact killed by Israeli fire. And in the north of Israel last night, there were widespread flames after Hezbollah militants fired rockets from southern Lebanon. And that is just underscoring the risk here that without a deal, the war in Gaza could spread further across the region. Back to you.
All right, Ralph Sanchez, thank you very much. Well, let's turn now to Capitol Hill, where Senate Democrats are preparing new legislation that aims to protect reproductive rights ahead of the November elections. The latest bills are part of a package called the Right to IVF Act, which would not only preserve access to the procedure, it would also make it more affordable. At least 13 states have introduced bills that would directly impact whether people can access IVF. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale joins us from around this. Ali, good morning. So first, just remind us how, why, when IVF became this hot button issue just in these past couple of months, and how this legislation addresses some of the biggest concerns among people who support this procedure or who are trying to access it.
Yeah, Savannah, you're right. This sort of only came up just in the last 6 months or so as an issue that felt urgent, in large part because a court in Alabama at one point ruled that embryos created through IVF should be allowed the same rights as children. That's then something that was touched off in a further political firestorm when, at that point, I asked then candidate Nikki Haley if she supported the court's ruling. She said, in her words, embryos are babies. It then forced the rest of the Republican world to reckon with where they stood on that. Ultimately, most of them fell in with where most of the public is, which is that IVF should not be restricted. There should be less barriers to that kind of reproductive health care. And we've seen across the country, various states try to put in place laws that would make it harder to go at IVF. That's at the state level. At the federal level, now we're watching Congress and specifically Senate Democrats try to make a push around enshrining protections to IVF treatment. That's one of the things that Senate Democrats are going to try to be pushing legislation on this month. And of course, you asked why. Timing really is everything. June is the month where at the end of it, we will see Senate Democrats and across the country, folks mark the second anniversary of the Dobbs Supreme Court decision. That, of course, means that the United States is officially 2 years post the Roe versus Wade decision that enshrined a baseline protection for abortion across the country. And of course, we know the ways now in which a patchwork of rules and restrictions have popped up across the country, making seeking care for women that much more difficult.
Yeah, generally, this push, right, by Senate Democrats to put reproductive rights in the spotlight. I'm not sure if why now is too obvious of a question, given what's coming up in November, but what else should we expect to see?
Well, it's why now in June for the reasons I just mentioned, the upcoming Dobbs anniversary, but then also the fact that this is one of the most, and I would argue the most salient issue coming up to November. Abortion, and specifically being post-Roe, is only something that we've seen voted on in a presidential election in theory. Now we're actually watching the first presidential election and widespread elections across the country with Americans knowing that they are without the protections of Roe and watching, frankly, what that means across the country. To that end, Senate Democrats today are going to continue highlighting those stories, both of patients and providers in the Senate Help Committee. That's going to be one of the hearings that they have. Then tomorrow we see them vote on protecting contraception. All of these votes are expected to fail, but at this point, the message is the point, Savannah.
Ali, while I have you, Dr. Anthony Fauci testified before the House Select Subcommittee on the COVID pandemic yesterday. It's a name we haven't heard in a little bit, right? Even though we got very used to saying Dr. Fauci all the time. Well, this was to address criticism from Republicans over his handling of it all. It's his first testimony since stepping down from his role as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. What was the main takeaway there? What sort of questions did he face?
Look, time has passed since Fauci left government in 2022, but it was as if no time had passed when you looked at the way that Republicans were questioning him about the decisions that were made in 2020 and 2021 when Fauci was serving as one of the top medical advisors and really the face of the COVID pandemic response in both the Trump and then Biden administrations. Some of the defenses that Fauci was mounting sounded a little bit like this, Savannah. Watch.
The accusation being circulated that I influenced these scientists to change their minds by bribing them with millions of dollars in grant money is absolutely false and simply preposterous.
Bribery, undue influence, those are some of the allegations that Fauci was guarding against. There he was saying, no, I didn't influence or bribe anyone to go against the idea that this virus could have originated at a lab in Wuhan, China. He said yesterday he's always been open-minded to that, Savannah.
Ali Vitale, we appreciate you reporting on it all this morning. Thank you so much. Now let's get you over to your morning news now. Weather forecast, we are tracking severe storms that could impact people from Minnesota all the way to Virginia. Angie Lastman's in studio with us this morning. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. We've, no surprise, got more thunderstorms in the forecast this afternoon, and they'll ramp up likely to bring us some severe weather across a good chunk of the country. So let's get you at the lay of the land this morning. Your satellite and radar picking up some of these thunderstorms that are stretched across parts of the northern plains. We've got some thunderstorms happening around Dallas, just north of the city, and that's going to be kind of the general area that we watch later today to see some of the stronger storms. Now, the good news from this is that our tornado risk is on the low end today. Doesn't mean we couldn't see one or two tornadoes, but it is a low-risk tornado day. On the other hand, though, we've got 19 million people at risk for some of these stronger storms to develop and bring us some gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour or greater, and the potential for some large hail. We're talking 2 inches or larger. Notice the major cities that are included in that: Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City. We've also got Dallas to Alexandria and out towards Jackson included in that as we get through the rest of your day today. On top of that, some good substantial rain likely going to happen, and you can see the area that we're watching for a moderate risk of flash flooding as we get through your day. Texarkana right in the bullseye of that, but Dallas up to Springfield and as far north as Iowa City seeing the slight risk of the flash flooding. So just a heads up, you might run into some of that here as you get through your day. We could see a localized amounts higher than 4, maybe even 5 inches in some spots, but I think the broader picture, more widespread numbers, about 1 inch to 2 inches for folks across this region. The heat, that is another big story when it comes to the weather through not just today, but the next couple of days, and we've got the heat alerts up to prove it. 29 million people impacted with this right now. We've got major cities of Las Vegas, Palm Springs, Phoenix included in this, San Antonio and San Angelo as well. And you can see why. We've got plenty of heat across parts of the Great Lakes in the Northeast, but the really impressive temperatures are going to come across parts of the Southwest, not just today, but really specifically into Thursday and into Friday. Here's a look at tomorrow. Temperatures running 10 to 15 degrees above normal, but check out what happens by the time we get to Thursday and into the weekend. We likely will see plenty of records being broken across this region. Las Vegas expected to hit 112 on Thursday. Not much of a break by Friday, 111, 108 by Saturday. Really dealing with the oppressive conditions for Phoenix as well, with a high of 113 degrees on Thursday, Savannah.
Wow, well, it's not a good thing because we're breaking all those records, but you matched the map quite nicely, Angie. You look great. All right, well, talking about heat records being broken is a perfect segue into the fact that last month marked the 12th consecutive month of record-breaking temperatures worldwide. This year in the U.S., here's how this could really affect you. Here's how this could impact your wallet. Home cooling costs are set to become the highest in a decade at more than $700 per household. We have NBC News national climate reporter, meteorologist Chase Kane here with more on this. Chase, you've been on the show before. I don't think I've ever had you in studio. It's great to see you here. Thanks for coming by. So I've got a lot of climate anxiety. So hearing stuff like this, I mean, it just seems like it's some bad news. Tell us, though, here, where are we seeing those highest temperatures records being broken, as Angie was mentioning?
Yeah, so climate is influencing two things. It's influencing the big picture, which is what we were just talking about there. 12 months in a row. Basically, you pick a month. You pick August, December, May, whatever month. The hottest of that month has all happened in the last 12 months. Wow. Some paleoclimate scientists say it's not just the hottest time in recorded history, that we're actually living in the hottest time in all of human history. So that is certainly concerning. When we zoom into the U.S. and look specifically at how climate change is influencing temperatures, if we look back just at the month of May, our friends at Climate Central did this analysis to try and strip the noise out and get to the signal here. And you see those dark red, basically black dots along the Gulf Coast from Texas over to Florida. That is where we really saw the influence of climate change last month. And they're going to continue doing this every month so that we can actually zero in and say this wasn't just regular old summertime heat. This is actually climate change. So I had a chance to talk to their head of climate science yesterday about what we should think when we see a map like this.
What I would love people to take away from this is that climate change is acting on the country, and it's acting on our day-to-day weather experience. And we can really start to see that in the numbers because of climate change. And that these conditions, what this tells you is that these conditions are not going to go away. These are conditions that are going to become more and more likely year after year because of all of the carbon dioxide that we've put into the atmosphere.
You look at those temperatures, right, being right there along the Gulf Coast, you think also, what does that impact things like hurricanes? 2023 also had the highest number of deaths related to climate. 2,300 people died more than actually from heat-related issues. How are American communities when you think about it, when you take about the climate out of it, when you take the politics out of it, I mean, this is just a public health issue. What are communities doing for the people that live there?
Yeah, I mean, climate change is really about us, right, Savannah? It's about people. It's about the impact on, living things on this planet. In terms of, what we're doing about it, it is a bit of a mixed bag. There are 3 cities, Miami, Phoenix, and Los Angeles, that all have chief heat officers, and it's basically their job. How do we keep people safe when it gets really hot, right? So that's one really good thing. The National Weather Service and the CDC also have some new tools that they've been rolling out this year to help give people a warning when we're going to have some of this extreme heat, like Angie was just talking about a few minutes ago. And one important question to consider, which honestly I haven't even given this a lot of thought myself, is what happens if the power goes out during a dangerous heat wave? We're in New York City, power goes out, it's hot. What do you do? Thinking about those kind of questions now will help keep people safe later on.
Oh, such a good point. Let's talk about the money of it all, because sometimes that can make people care too, right? What is this going to cost you? I mentioned a minute ago about it just costing more to cool your homes. In fact, there are projections out there that this year it's going to cost Americans 8% more to cool down their homes. What kind of help is available, and what kind of strain is that putting on people?
I mean, it's putting a strain on everyone's wallet, right? Things are more expensive, and there is federal aid that goes to help people pay for utility bills when it gets really hot. But even the federal money that's been put into that program is about $2 billion less than it was last year. So they think with the higher cost, with less money, that these 2 nonprofits say they might be able to help 1 million fewer households, which is significant. The other consideration is maybe people have air conditioning, but now they're figuring out, how long can I run the AC? Do I need to turn it off? Do I need to just try and deal with the heat? And those can be potentially dangerous decisions depending on someone's health conditions.
Absolutely. Or when we see heat in these areas where people don't actually traditionally have air conditioning, like in the Pacific Northwest, things like that. Chase Kane, thank you very much. Important reporting, and good to have you in studio with us. We've got a lot more to get to this morning, including a shocking rise in PTSD among college students. We are digging into what's behind that uptick. Stay with us. We are back now with a look at the results coming out of India's election. More than 1 billion people are eligible to vote. So the election itself has taken 6 weeks, which came in the middle, though, of a deadly heat wave across the country. The current leader, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is expected to win a rare 3rd term, although it is actually looking closer than expected. Joining us now from New Delhi to help break down some of these early results is NBC News International correspondent Janice Mackey-Fraser. Janice, good morning. So this is the world's biggest election. There are obviously a lot of votes, therefore, to be counted. Give us the latest on where the parties stand and when we expect final results.
Well, election officials are saying that there was record turnout for voting, more than 600 million people. And in that sense, it makes this the world's largest election in world history. And while Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his BJP party, along with coalition partners, were long forecasted to win, there was a stronger than expected showing by the opposition coalition led by the Congress Party. And Modi, it looks like he will emerge with a narrower majority, and that's being seen as a setback. When I was watching some of the results come in on television, there was a lot of excitement among the anchors, one of them calling it an election thriller because nobody expected that the opposition would have this sort of showing. They were saying that it was actually competitive. So in that sense, it could also be more challenging for Modi as he goes into a 3rd term.
Yeah, while he is such a popular leader, an approval rating of 74%, critics argue that Mr. Modi's time in office has been bad for human rights and for minorities like the country's Muslims. What problems is his government likely to face in its 3rd term should he win this?
Jobs, inflation, equality. Those were the 3 things that we heard most when we were talking to people, especially from young people. There is a booming young population here, a demographic bulge, and many of them say they can't find quality jobs. So that's going to be a challenge. The bigger issue looming for a lot of people here is whether a stronger Narendra Modi will institute constitutional changes. They say that the country has seen a democratic backsliding over his 10 years in power, and their worry is that there could be moves to change the constitution, which enshrines India as a secular nation, to redefine it as a Hindu nation, to bring it more in line with Modi and the BJP's ideology. Savannah.
Janice, thank you very much for your reporting here. We appreciate it. Big news. Well, there's more international news now. In the UK, an unexpected candidate is shaking up next month's general election. Josh Letterman is with us from London this morning with that and more. Hi, Josh. Good morning. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Well, the Conservative Party's chances of holding on to power here in the UK were already low, but have just gotten a lot worse as right-wing politician Nigel Farage is joining the race for Parliament. Now, Farage is best known as a key architect of Brexit and a close ally of former President Trump. Now, his Reform Party is likely to siphon off votes from Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives, who are already polling far below the UK's Labour Party. Now, let's head to Nigeria, where the power grid has been shut down by a nationwide strike by union workers. Air travel had to be stopped, healthcare has been limited, and now tens of millions are going without electricity after the union workers shut down the power supply. They are demanding a raise in the federal minimum wage, but negotiations so far with the government have failed to reach an agreement. And finally, over to Brazil, which is now home to the world's most expensive cow. She's called Viatina 19, and she was sold at auction for more than $4 million, setting a Guinness World Record. She weighs more than 2,400 pounds, which is twice the average for her breed, and now has billboards in Brazil showing her off, and even her own armed guard. This is all part of Brazil's push to boost its cattle industry as well as to expand beef consumption around the world. Guys, back to you.
I guess I don't know a lot about different cow types, but I've never seen one with that camel-looking hump thing. Josh, thank you very much. Learn something new every day. Coming up, AI is seemingly advancing in leaps and bounds, and many parents are struggling to keep up. So how can you keep your children safe in an increasingly digital world? We're going to sit down with an expert right after the break. We're back with our weekly mental health check-in. A new study shows college kids are suffering from higher rates of PTSD. We will explain exactly why that is and how to look out for it. Plus, we've got tips on how to spot the difference between suffering from social anxiety and simply being a shy person. Well, let's bring in our friend, Dr. George James, for this and more. Dr. James is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Always great to have you, doctor. Welcome back. Let's start with that study into PTSD in college students. So this is a condition many people might associate maybe with veterans who have seen traumatic events or someone who's been through something really specific. What is causing PTSD in students in broader strokes, and what do parents need to know?
Hey, good morning, Savannah. What we've noticed is that PTSD is something that is actually more prevalent than we actually realize. And in the past few years, 2017, 2022, it actually increased, it doubled. And so part of that was because of the COVID pandemic, where lots of people experienced a traumatic event and then after had to deal with that. And so PTSD is mental health condition that with intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, and high sensitivity after a traumatic event. And so it's important that on college campuses and around the community that we serve our young folks with treatment.
So important, doctor. Let's turn to the difference between shyness and anxiety. Okay, so how can we tell the difference? And for people who are shy, what are some strategies to help with everyday interactions?
No, so first of all, there's a lot of similarities between the two, where you might be shy or have a social anxiety in terms of situations where you don't want to be in front of people or you might not engage folks. But the difference with social anxiety is that it is something that can be diagnosable, and it's also something that can impact people at work, at school, at home, and can really kind of impact their lives in a negative way. Versus shyness is something that people can work through, and they might be able to push through and be able to connect with others. So you really want to look at the differences and if it's really causing significant harm in your life.
Let's end on a fun one, doctor. So there's this new trend on TikTok. It's pointing out some of these cute phrases, unique words that are shared between couples, siblings, friends. This is called Friend Dictionary. So, like, instead of saying I'm chilly, they might say Chilean sea bass, or instead of I'm in pain, I'm in pain au chocolat. How do you little jokes like this establish closeness? And why is it that some people are liking watching these videos?
Yeah, you know, it just reminds us of the ways that we are connected. It's like the inside joke. It's that nostalgic feeling. It's that way of saying you and I or our community or our friend group is connected. And we all have these phrases. I see it with my children. I see it with other folks. I see it with my wife and I. Like, it's something that allows us to feel like there's a special bond. There's a special thing that we have that we use language to share. And you see folks do this all the time. So it's great. And I encourage people to just lean into it, enjoy it, maybe share your favorite phrase with your friend or loved one and have a good time and maybe have a good memory and a laugh about it as well.
It's pretty cute. Dr. George James, thanks. Always so great to have you with us. Well, since artificial intelligence exploded in the tech space less than 2 years ago, it's become the center of so many conversations here on this show, but also in our homes, maybe with your teens. In fact, more than half of young people between the ages of 14 and 22 say they have used AI at some point in their lives. And frankly, people a lot younger than that are using it. Now, despite its meteoric rise, there's still so much we do not know about AI. Both young people and their parents are divided on how they feel about the digital future. Almost half of young people think AI will have positive and negative impacts over the next 10 years. Parents feel largely the same right now. Well, parenting in this new digital age is the subject of a new town hall, which I hosted alongside my fellow News Now anchor Kate Snow, sponsored by Aura. We spoke to one expert about how parents can teach their kids to use technology while protecting their autonomy. Here's part of that conversation. We did get some viewer questions from people who are not in the room but who will be watching this, who are interested in this. Here is one from a parent of a 16-year-old who asks, how can kids safely use technology while protecting their privacy? Because that's really, it's the balance here, right? How do you do it but do it safely? Adam, what do you say to that?
Well, so much about this is about privacy and about consent. Right? These images are being created, they're violating our privacy, and we're not giving anybody consent to do this. I think it's why people find them so, even though they know they're not real, they find them so distressing and awful because it really does violate our bodily autonomy, it violates our consent, we didn't give permission for that. And a lot about privacy, people are trafficking in our data all the time. We didn't give them permission to do that. So really centering permission and consent around this, having conversations about bodily autonomy that don't just include our physical bodies, but also include our images. And if someone's thinking about like creating these images, helping them understand how harmful this is and how it's such a violation of their privacy if you create an explicit nude of them.
Well, Adam Dodge is here with us now, live in studio. He is the founder of ntab.org. So TAB there stands for Tech-Enabled Abuse. Is that right?
That's right.
Adam, good morning. So good to have you with us. Thank you for filming that with us yesterday. We'll air tonight and also being here early. Let's talk about NTAB. You started this back in 2019. Tell us why you felt it was important and about the work that you've been able to tackle in the last 5 years.
Sure. So I worked at a domestic violence nonprofit where we were helping adults and children stay safe. And what we found was that the ways in which they were being harmed was increasingly occurring online, but we didn't know how to address or prevent it. And so with NTAB, I sought to create solutions for people working to keep their communities safe, for parents, for victim service providers, to ensure that people are safe online and offline. And as a result of doing that, you start looking at prevention and you start looking at parenting and how you can guide kids through digital adolescence in a really safe and healthy way.
What are the questions that you hear the most? I'll kind of ask this two ways, from young people, but then also from parents when it comes to staying safe online.
So with young people, generally they feel pretty invincible online and offline, but when they experience harm, it's usually about harassment and bullying, and often taking place anonymously, because it's so easy to anonymize yourself online, but so hard to unmask somebody who is harming you anonymously. And then the number one thing I hear from parents is, when should my kids get on social media and when should they get a phone? And you know, the answer is it depends. Right? It depends on your kid. It depends on the platforms they want to use and how prepared they are to use them.
I know I'm really like putting you on the spot on this one, but just generally, because many of these apps say, you know, we're for 13 and up. How do you feel about that age?
I don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel great about it. I think any parent who spends time, even if they set their age to 13, to see what is showing up in their feed, I think they'd be pretty shocked that there's a lot of inappropriate, you know, content that comes through. And that's a really good thing that parents can do. They can spend time on the social media platforms that their kids want to use or are using so they can get a sense of what they're experiencing and be more connected to their lives.
And in addition, I mean, I think what you just said is such a great point for parents, by the way, is learning these apps that your kids are on, becoming a user of them, becoming someone who understands the ecosystem. But we also have a stat here. More than half of parents say they always or often monitor their kids' online activity. That includes AI tools. When I say monitor, that can include a lot of different things, right? All these social media apps kind of have these parental centers now. Maybe you can sort of see a mirror of their app on your own phone. Maybe you're doing something like enforcing screen time limits within your home. What do you think about parents' involvement? Obviously, I've talked to so many parents, it's a huge, and teens, but really more from the teens I hear, it's a huge source of tension in the home. But is there a best practice for how much you should be looking at what your teen is doing?
So I think so much of this is about being connected to your kids and their lives in general, which will include their social media. But when it comes to how we monitor their social media, look, parenting is a lot of work. It's exhausting to monitor their social media, but I think having an agreement that you can check their social media whenever you want is real. That's what I hear from young adults is the number one thing that their parents did that they didn't like at the time but really appreciate now is they knew that their mom or dad could look at their social media whenever they wanted, and that keeps you honest, right? And it keeps you connected. And there's no perfect solution, but it's all about staying connected so that if something bad happens, you've created space for your child to come to you with this online stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh, it's so important, and those are such great tips. Let's talk a little bit about AI specifically before I let you go. Roughly 3/4 of parents say they are concerned about AI. We are hearing instances of abuse online. We have a fascinating conversation that if you tune in tonight, you will hear about something called nudify or undressing apps, basically AI and this new digital frontier of bullying happening within the halls of schools. And then not to mention, you know, just these professional predators and extorters who are online getting in touch with children. I know this is a very big and broad question, but for a parent who's like, gosh, I don't even know the first thing about AI, but maybe their kid, maybe even like their 7 or 8-year-old is like fantastic at ChatGPT, things like that. What are just a couple things that they can hold on to or you would advise them to do right now to try to get ahead of this, maybe in a way that we didn't with social media?
Sure. So with AI and kids, there's 2 ways when we're talking about harm that it's showing up for us. One is images. So people can create, edit, explicit images of really anybody now. And then 2, chatbots, companions, romantic partners, therapists, wingmen, all these. This is becoming a thing now. And this sounds like I'm talking about a science fiction movie, but it's unfortunately parenting.
Yeah.
And just by being aware of this, you don't need a crystal ball to see what's coming. And information is really empowering for parents. So it would be amazing for them to just have a handle on those 2 threats so that they can talk to their kids about them and make them aware.
Really good information and delivered in a nice, calm, easy to digest way.
Thank you.
For all you parents at home to hold on to a little something. Adam Dodge, thank you very much for joining me now, for being here live, but also for being part of our special. Don't miss this tonight. Kate and I, our town hall, Digital Parenting, Raising the AI Generation. It is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBC News Now. It is sponsored by Aura in support of their Digital Parenthood initiative with some awesome tools for parents. Well, coming up, let's change gears here. Did endless shrimp really sink Red Lobster? Analysts say the catchy headline hardly tells the whole story. What some experts say was really to blame that has fans of the iconic chain steamed, if you will. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back now with financial headlines for you, and get this, a possible ban could be in store for the meme stock trader behind that recent GameStop surge. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other news this morning. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Good morning to you. So E-Trade is reportedly considering whether to ban meme stock pioneer Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, after recent purchases he made in GameStop are raising questions about possible stock manipulation. Gill resurfaced online last month, launching a fresh stock frenzy. He also posted on Reddit this weekend, appearing to show a screenshot of an E-Trade account with millions of dollars worth of GameStop stock options. Shares of GameStop have jumped nearly 160% in the past month. All right, if you thought you got the deal of a lifetime on shares of Berkshire Hathaway yesterday, well, you are in for quite the disappointment. The New York Stock Exchange is canceling bad trades in Berkshire Class A shares from yesterday morning, and that was due to a glitch with a market data feed. Trading was halted about 20 minutes after the opening bell as the price tumbled more than 99% to just $185. Trading resumed at normal levels around noon. It is the 3rd glitch to hit the markets in the past week. And Coke is still it, the top soda brand in America, but the runner-up is no longer the choice of a new generation. Beverage Digest says Dr. Pepper has inched ahead of Pepsi as the #2 brand. Dr. Pepper has been growing in popularity as it leans into its identity as a spicy alternative to cola. Its new flavor, strawberries and cream, has also been a big success, fan.
We need Joe here for that one because none of that sounds good to me, but he likes it. All right. Silvana, thank you so much.
Sure.
Well, Red Lobster, the restaurant chain known for its endless shrimp deal, is closing the doors on all of its 646 locations across the U.S. after filing for bankruptcy. In a new NBC News investigation, senior business correspondent Christine Romans takes a closer look at what exactly happened.
One day after Austin Hurst worked a grueling 35-hour Mother's Day weekend behind the grill at Red Lobster, he found out he'd lost his job.
I found out through a customer who showed up at the locked doors. General manager never reached out. Corporate never reached out. I still haven't received an email.
The 22-year-old, one of thousands of Red Lobster employees, suddenly unemployed after the chain restaurant filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, shutting down nearly 100 locations across 28 states.
As soon as Mother's Day was done, they shut the doors and didn't tell anybody.
Over the next few days, media reports mostly blamed the company's financial woes on one thing.
Endless shrimp?
Endless shrimp. Bottomless shrimp doesn't come with a bottomless budget, folks.
The endless shrimp promotion, which let diners eat as much shrimp as they could for just $20. And while it did cause an $11 million loss, experts say that's not what sank the boat.
The endless shrimp is not the reason Red Lobster is in bankruptcy. The fundamental problem is that Red Lobster got involved in what's called private equity.
Former Labor Secretary Robert Reich blames private equity firm Golden Gate Capital, which bought Red Lobster in 2014.
Golden Gate Capital stripped away all the real estate, valuable real estate, meaning that Red Lobster restaurants had to pay rent on all of its real estate.
The move put $1.5 billion right into the coffers of Golden Gate, but forced Red Lobster to start paying $200 million in rent every year. Golden Gate declined to comment when NBC News reached out. It's a strategy called asset stripping, originally favored by the infamous corporate raiders of the 1980s.
Well, I don't sell the whole company. I break it up into pieces, and then I sell that off. It's worth more than the whole.
So it's sort of like stealing cars and selling them for the parts, right?
Yeah, sort of, but legal.
And asset stripping is still practiced today by the descendants of those raiders, private equity.
It's like exposing a company to a new risk, a new problem. If there's any kind of turbulence in the atmosphere, that company will not survive.
There are times when asset stripping is effective at saving companies.
It happened with Safeway in 1988. It happened with Hilton Hotels in 2008. So sometimes they're coming in and providing that necessary cash and the investments to turn these companies around.
But the list of victims of asset stripping include iconic American companies like Sears and Kmart. And some are even more alarmed by private equity's tactics in the healthcare industry.
They just want to monetize it. They just want to get more wealthy. But it's at the price of the health of every citizen in our country.
Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey is fighting to pass a bill that would vastly increase government oversight of private equity after asset stripping drove several Massachusetts hospitals to the brink of closing.
If you kick them in the heart, you're going to break your toe if it comes to health care. And we just have to make sure they're not allowed to do it any longer.
Christine Romans, NBC News.
That was such a great report, Christine. Thank you very much. Coming up, it's time to sit back and unwind. Summer travel season is here. So what are this year's hottest destinations and where should you be looking if you're, let's say, balling on a budget? Get your shades ready. We're breaking it all down up next. We are back, and believe it or not, summer is almost here. Maybe you feel like it already is here. Well, if you haven't booked a summer vacation yet, you might want to start making those plans. Don't worry, though, whether you're trying to get the plans out of the group chat or going solo, there are still some deals to be had both here in the U.S. and overseas. Let's bring in Katie Nastro. She is a travel expert at Going, and she joins us with some of those last-minute ideas. Good morning, Katie. Great to see you. Happy summer. Happy traveling. So a lot of people are looking to go abroad this summer. Always fun. Tell us some of the top international destinations where you can actually get some good deals, because I will say I've been looking around and flights seem pretty ridiculous to me.
Yeah, you know, summer is a peak travel season, so we're always looking for ways to save. And if you haven't booked your summer travels quite yet or are looking to travel in the months beyond summer, these top cities to fly into provide the most amount of deals when you're flying from the U.S. So looking at the top spot, Paris actually provides the most deals coming from the U.S. In the past year, we found 159 deals to Paris alone. The average going deal we find is about $451 round trip. The next spot is London. No surprise there, as New York to London is one of the busiest routes we see. We have found 136 deals in the last 12 months alone over to London from the US. 538 round trip is what we typically see. And then that third spot is Dublin, which is also no surprise since we see great connectivity from the East Coast over to the Emerald Isle. 122 deals found in the last month. Average going deal about $515. And then in the two cities in rounding out the top five are Rome and Barcelona. Average going deals to them are about $508 round trip. And even if these cities are not on your list per se, they're going to give you the best options in terms of affordability to get to them. And then they have great connectivity elsewhere. So it's best to sort of target these cities and then see if you can tack on a budget or regional flight from there.
Okay, I'm shocked by some of those prices. So for people to get deals like that, do they go to Going? How can they find those?
Correct. Go to going.com. You can sign up for our membership, and we send deals from from many different cities across the U.S. over to places like Europe and beyond.
Amazing. Okay, we've only got about a minute left here, Katie, but I do want to talk about if people want to stay closer to home, where should you look to go domestically?
Domestically, yeah, these are going to be some top leisure destinations. Hawaii actually finds, or we find the most deals to the Hawaiian Islands. Last year, we found 166 deals to fly to Hawaii. You know, there's so much competition looking to fly into and around Hawaii that this actually means that this is great for consumers because there's so many options. No surprise, New York, also another big tourist destination, as well as Miami. Both of those cities have multiple competitive airports. So again, that provides a lot of competition, a lot of airlines looking to fly in and out of them, and which for consumers means a lot of great deals.
All right. Katie Nastro, really good deals. Exciting to talk about. I cannot get over some of those European prices. That's some good news for people. Thank you very much, Katie. Good to see you. Well, that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't leave us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for joining me this Tuesday. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, braced for a scorcher. Heat alerts are in place for millions of people across the West Coast and parts of the Southwest as states prepare for the first major heat wave of the year. The searing temperatures are also fueling the first wildfires of the season, like the Corral Fire in California, which forced thousands of people to evacuate. What to expect as the extreme heat sets in. Also this morning, border backtrack. President Biden is set to sign an executive order that would temporarily close the border when crossing surge. Why the president is shifting his migration position as a backlash within his party grows over the policy change. Piling on the pressure, the United States is pushing Israel and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire proposal after dozens of Palestinians were killed in a new round of Israeli airstrikes across Gaza. The urgency for a deal comes as Israel says four more hostages have died while in Hamas custody, the latest on the war in the Middle East. Plus, some bad news if you enjoy boozing while cruising. A new study shows drinking alcohol during a flight could be bad for your heart. What you need to know about the new research, including why it could make sleeping worse, which is quite interesting. We will get into that. Who doesn't enjoy a glass of wine sometimes when you're in flight? We're going to begin this hour, though, with that severe heat wave that is expected to scorch states across the country. This morning, millions across the Southwest are waking up to heat alerts, with temperatures expected to rise into the upper 90s and triple digits. The extreme heat comes as thousands in Northern California were forced to evacuate over the weekend due to a fast-moving wildfire. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin joins us now from Tracy, California, where, as we've seen, fire season is already underway. Dana, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Savannah. We saw storms overnight in the Central Plains, and here in California, this is the first significant West Coast heat wave of the year. There are heat alerts for some 30 million people across the Southwest, and when you combine these high temperatures plus these tall, dry grasses, it could be extra fuel for potential wildfires. This morning, strong storms and fierce heat sweeping the country. The wild weather bringing flooding risks in Oklahoma and the Central Plains. While in other states, the heat is on.
Tomorrow, up to 100 degrees.
A sweltering heat wave is set to scorch much of the west and southwest, with temperatures 20 degrees higher than usual in many places. In Texas, from Austin to the Rio Grande, the heat index could range from 110 to 115 degrees. While later this week, Phoenix is expecting to hit 112 degrees for the first time this year, after hitting that mark more than 50 times last year, resulting in 645 heat-related deaths in and around the city. In the Las Vegas Valley, temperatures will also be near 110 through Thursday. Clark County already planning on opening public cooling stations. The triple-digit temps creating conditions ripe for wildfires like this one. The Corral Fire scorching more than 14,000 acres in California's San Joaquin County. Families forced to evacuate under heavy smoke.
The flame was actually lapping up on the side of the trailers and on the side of my car. And the fireman told me just to follow him through. He took 3 steps and he disappeared. We didn't see him. So they rearranged the truck so we could see the lights at the top of the truck to drive out.
Driven by 40-mile-per-hour winds, the Corral Fire keeping firefighters busy all weekend. The blaze destroying the Curtis's home.
This is 35 years of memories. There's things that just can't be replaced. But my parents are alive, and that's the important thing.
That's the important thing. So the Corral Fire is 75% contained with no active flames, but officials say it's these early grass fires which could be an indication of an active fire season ahead. Savannah?
All right, Dana Griffin, thank you very much for starting us this hour. Well, for more updates, let's take a look at your morning news now. Weather forecast, Andrew Lastman is back. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. You heard Dana talking about it, that heat that we're concerned about across much of the Southwest. And we've got those alerts that she mentioned. 29 million people right now. We've got Phoenix, Palm Springs, Tucson included in that. And notice how it extends into parts of Texas as well, San Angelo down to Brownsville, including San Antonio. This is something that we'll likely see last at least through Friday. And here's why. We've got a high pressure kind of sitting across parts of the Southwest. This is dragging in a whole lot of that hot and humid air around that high. And that means that these records, as we get through the next couple of days, will likely be broken across this region with all of that hot air in place. What are we talking? Anywhere from 10 degrees above normal to 20 degrees above normal, and the potential to see dozens of records over the next couple of days from Texas to California. So here's the deal for today. Not bad across parts of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. We've got temperatures a little warm for this time of year, but nothing too impressive. 80s in both Cleveland and St. Louis, as well as Richmond. San Antonio expected to hit the triple digits. So we're close to 10 degrees above normal for that location for today's temperature. Similar story as you look out west too. Not quite as impressive as what's to come in the next couple of days. Palm Springs likely to head to the triple digits, but running only about 5 degrees above normal for this time of year. Look what happens though by the time we get into tomorrow. Those temperatures start to surge. We see triple digits for a whole lot of places. Las Vegas, Fresno, Palm Springs, Tucson, El Paso, all over 100 degrees with these temperatures running way above normal for this time of year. Specifically, notice Denver into the low 90s, 12 degrees above normal. But it's the Southwest that we're likely going to see these record highs dropping as we get to the end of the week. So specifically Thursday into Friday, still dealing with that oppressive heat as we get into Saturday. Here's some of those temperatures that you can expect. Las Vegas, folks on the Strip are going to see temperatures headed to 112 degrees by Thursday. We don't see much improvement by Friday, 111 for your high temperature. And even Saturday, we see a couple of degrees shaved off of that, but still not much of an improvement with 108 degrees for your Saturday plans. Yuma and Phoenix, similar story, triple digits. We've got 113 expected in Phoenix on Thursday, 112 on Friday, and a little bit of a break, I guess if you call it that, on Saturday as our temperatures head to 109 degrees. So we're going to see this kind of time frame for some of those records. It'll take a little while for us to see the improvements when it comes to the potential for some cooler cooler kind of forecast across that region. We've got to get through the work week and into the weekend, and likely on the backside of that, we'll see some changes. All right, here's the deal as far as the big picture look. Speaking of the weekend, notice how much sunshine there is across much of the country. I know it's only Tuesday, but we're, of course, looking ahead. We've got showers and thunderstorms expected for the interior Northeast, New England, but otherwise, plenty of sunshine to go around. It will be hot and humid, not just where we deal with those records out west, but across the southern tier of the country. You can see plenty of 90s and high 80s for folks there. As we head into Saturday, still hanging on to the high humidity across the Gulf Coast. The records, though, Savannah, will shift to parts of the Pacific Northwest, and we will remain unsettled across the Northeast as we get into your Saturday and your Sunday.
All right. Well, sunny and pleasant there and part of the middle of the
Midwest.
country, which they need. All right,
Yes,
Angie,
they do.
thank you very much. Good to see you. Well, now to Washington, where President Biden is expected to sign an executive order today that would restrict daily crossings at the southern border. It would give the president the power to shut down the border when crossings spike. This new action comes as the Biden administration continues to face growing pressure over immigration. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us from Washington with the details. Gabe, good morning.
Hey there, Savannah. Good morning. President Biden is expected to host border city mayors here at the White House later today for the long-awaited announcement. But he's facing backlash from within his own party over what would be a massive overhaul of this country's asylum system, policies reminiscent of the Trump administration. Facing intensifying pressure over the migrant influx at the U.S. southern border, this morning President Biden is preparing to announce sweeping changes. NBC News has learned the executive action would allow the president to temporarily shut down the border to asylum seekers if illegal crossings reach 2,500 a day, according to 3 people familiar with the discussions.
It is definitely a step in the right direction, one of a number of steps that are necessary for us to be able to secure our border.
But some Republicans say it's too little, too late.
He created a crisis at the border intentionally.
Right now, Homeland Security officials say there are more than 4,000 encounters at the border each day, suggesting a shutdown could go into effect immediately. The border would reopen if daily encounters dropped below 1,500. This migrant just crossed near San Diego and says the new restrictions would be tough. Coming on the heels of a historic presidential election in Mexico, and just as the campaign here in the U.S. heats up, the move is a reversal from President Biden's stance in January. Even though Mr. Trump urged congressional Republicans to kill a bipartisan border funding bill earlier this year, the former president has a 30-point edge with registered voters on the question of who would handle immigration and border security better. Immigrant advocates say the changes will cause chaos.
It is a betrayal of what we were told in a campaign 4 years ago. We were told that President Biden would be restoring humanity at our border. But what we are seeing is that history is repeating itself.
In 2018, the Trump administration tried to enact similar border restrictions, but the courts struck them down. We expect more legal challenges now. The executive action will also have some humanitarian exceptions, including for children who arrive at the border alone. Savannah?
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much. Well, opening statements are slated for today in the federal criminal gun trial of President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. The jury of 12, along with 4 alternates, were selected yesterday in court. Hunter Biden got support during the first day of the trial, with First Lady Jill Biden in attendance. NBC's Ryan Nobles joins us from outside the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware, with the latest. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. And prosecutors are expected to argue today that Hunter Biden lied on a federal form before purchasing a handgun. The president's son has already pled not guilty to those charges, and he is getting defense from his famous family. The president's son, Hunter Biden, facing a criminal trial and the prospect of jail time, getting support from the first family right from the start. First Lady Jill Biden in the courtroom for jury selection, sitting just a few feet behind her son and whispering in his ear throughout the marathon day. His father, the president, issuing a rare statement addressing the case. As the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases. But as a dad, I have boundless love for my son. The First Lady and Biden's legal team listening closely as dozens of potential jurors were asked questions about their backgrounds and possible connections to the Biden family. In the end, 12 jurors were seated, 6 men and 6 women, with 4 alternates. 6 of the jurors had owned a gun or had a family member who had purchased a gun. 1 juror was a Secret Service agent. And 4 of the jurors had family members who struggled with addiction, a key theme in this case. Prosecutors charged Biden after a plea deal on separate tax charges fell apart, a process Republicans have attacked.
They were trying to wipe away everything under the cover of darkness. Thankfully, the judge asked some questions, and so, he's going to have his day in court.
But Democrats counter that the Bidens have respected the judicial process. And it is expected that a series of Biden family members will be with Hunter in court as the trial plays out. And after opening statements, we expect to hear from the first witness, an FBI special agent who will detail some of Hunter Biden's text messages. This trial expected to last a little more than a week, and it's not clear yet whether or not Hunter Biden will testify in his own defense. Savannah?
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Well, this morning, the push for a ceasefire in Gaza is taking on new urgency after dozens of Palestinians were killed in a new round of airstrikes across the besieged enclave. It comes after the Israeli military announced the deaths of 4 more hostages it says died while in Hamas captivity. NBC News International correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv. Raf, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. President Biden and his top aides are making this push for a hostage deal a top priority. We're expecting the administration to hold a series of key meetings throughout the day, including on a new resolution at the United Nations Security Council. But while all of that is happening, the intense bombing in Gaza continues.
This morning, Israeli attacks on Gaza showing no sign of letting up. Airstrikes leveling buildings in the center of the Strip and fires raging. Even as the White House intensifies its push to finally end the war and bring the hostages home. The president speaking to the leader of Qatar, urging him to pressure Hamas to accept the ceasefire offer.
You fail every day at it until finally you succeed. And I believe we will succeed. It's a question of when. But can I tell you when exactly it's going to happen? I can't.
And today, new urgency after the IDF announced the deaths of 4 more hostages in Hamas captivity, 3 of them in their 80s.
We are sorry. We couldn't save them in time.
The IDF says they died during an Israeli operation months ago and vowing to investigate difficult questions amid unconfirmed Hamas claims they were killed by Israeli fire. Families of hostages now pressing the government to make a deal, including the parents of Hirsch Goldberg Poland.
Everyone in this region is ready for our suffering and our agony and our misery to stop, and it doesn't matter which side.
While inside Gaza, the strikes and the suffering continue, with time running out for children like Ahmed, who has cerebral palsy and needs surgery he can't get inside the Strip, where the healthcare system has all but collapsed. And last night, flames across northern Israel after rocket fire from militants in Lebanon, raising fears that without a deal soon, the war in Gaza may spread across the region.
And Jake Sullivan, the president's national security advisor, will meet with the families of American hostages today to update them on the ceasefire talks. That's according to a senior U.S. official speaking to NBC News. But for now, Qatar is saying neither Israel nor Hamas has given a clear response to that ceasefire proposal laid out by President Biden. Savannah.
Raf Sanchez, thank you very much. Well, coming up, feeling the heat, Dr. Fauci forced to defend his response to the COVID pandemic in a fiery hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. Details on that are after the break. We are back now with some drama on Capitol Hill. Dr. Anthony Fauci is back in the national spotlight. Dr. Fauci, who of course helped spearhead America's COVID response, testified before the House committee investigating the origins of the pandemic on Monday, and he faced attacks from Republicans. Fauci called their continued accusations that he tried to cover up COVID's origins, quote, preposterous. Here's NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson with the latest.
Hey there, we are talking about a high-profile moment for one of the pandemic's most high-profile figures, with Dr. Anthony Fauci saying if health officials had done nothing during the pandemic, which killed more than 1 million Americans, then nearly 1 million more may have died. Republicans blasting the doctor for what they see as his missteps, and many Democrats coming to his defense. Dr. Anthony Fauci on defense.
When you're dealing with a new outbreak, things changed.
And dismissing claims he played any part in a suggested cover-up of COVID origins.
The accusation being circulated is absolutely false and simply preposterous.
The doctor, who retired 18 months ago, back in the spotlight as part of a Republican-led investigation into the pandemic's origins and response. A hearing at times turning testy.
Mr. Fauci, because you're not doctor, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Suspend.
Fauci explaining what he meant when he testified behind closed doors in January that the 6-foot social distancing rule sort of just appeared, according to transcripts. Now clarifying it came from the CDC with no clinical trials done.
You didn't feel an obligation as the lead scientist at the NIH to challenge that.
I've challenged the CDC multiple times.
Fauci served in his government role since 1984, advising 7 presidents of both parties, and was a prominent expert in the fight against diseases like HIV/AIDS. Back when COVID started spreading, he became the pandemic's public face, appearing in briefings, in magazines.
Here's Dr. Anthony Fauci.
On late-night shows. But since then, he's become politically polarizing, alternately idolized or demonized. Overnight, Fauci saying the vitriol he faces, including on Capitol Hill, means he still gets death threats even while out of government service.
You have performances like that unusual performance by Marjorie Taylor Greene in today's hearing. Those are the kind of things that drive up the death threats.
Testifying emotionally now about the death threats his family has faced.
It is very troublesome to me. It is much more troublesome because they've involved my wife and my 3 daughters.
At these moments, how do you feel?
Terrible.
As for how prepared we are for the next pandemic, Dr. Fauci thinks in some respects we're better equipped to deal with one, but he's disappointed with other areas, like the divisiveness over a coherent COVID response during the pandemic. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you very much. It's time now for some international headlines, starting with the latest on the war in Ukraine. Josh Letterman joins us from London with that and more. Hey, Josh.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. The Ukrainian military says that it struck a Russian missile system inside Russia itself using Western-supplied weapons. Now, it's not clear if those were specifically American weapons, but it comes just days after President Biden authorized letting Ukraine use U.S. weapons to strike certain areas inside of Russia. In the past, the U.S. had insisted that Ukraine could only use American-supplied weapons against Russian targets inside Ukraine for fear of dragging the U.S. into a wider war with Russia. Now let's head to the Korean Peninsula, where tensions are rising once again as South Korea says it is suspending a military agreement with North Korea to avoid provocations along their front line. South Korea is taking that step in response to the North sending hundreds of balloons carrying trash, manure, and cigarette butts into South Korea over the last week. Ending this delicate agreement could mean South Korea conducting military exercises along the front line and broadcasting propaganda into North Korea via loudspeakers, which could in turn lead the North to retaliate. And finally, to the world of European sports, where Spanish soccer team Real Madrid has just signed powerhouse player Kylian Mbappe from French team Paris Saint-Germain. The 25-year-old was the top scorer on that team and spent 7 years there, but has now signed up for a 5-year deal with Real Madrid. Mbappe posted a photo of himself when he was young wearing a Madrid jacket and calling this a dream come true. And I'm sure for a lot of Spanish soccer fans, this is a dream come true for them as well, Savannah.
How cute is that? The young picture. Josh, thank you so much. We're going to stay on sports now and go to the growing controversy involving WNBA rookie sensation Caitlin Clark. Over the weekend, Clark was on the receiving end of a very hard foul from a veteran player, setting off a firestorm of commentary on social media. NBC News senior correspondent Stephanie Goss joins us now with more. Hey, Steph, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. You know, given Caitlin Clark's popularity, there has been a lot of scrutiny on this controversial moment. The WNBA is now saying that foul on the court was more serious than they initially ruled. Kennedy Carter's coach has called the play not appropriate, but now the player is speaking out herself.
The WNBA is now calling this moment between Caitlin Clark and Kennedy Carter a flagrant foul.
Hold off to Carter. Her jumper is good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points.
Upgrading the call on the court, saying Carter's actions were unnecessary. Carter, who refused to comment after the game,
I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions.
Now deciding to respond.
I don't have any regrets with anything. I'm going to compete and play 100% hard no matter who it is. And it was just like one of those things that was in the heat of the moment. You know, I don't know Caitlin. I don't know her from anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, this is hoops. It's competitive.
Carter says it was retaliation for a previous play. But now she faces a possible fine and suspension if she does it again. Clark downplayed the moment.
And it is what it is. It's a physical game.
While the general manager for the team, Lynn Dunn, posting on social media, there's a difference between tough defense and unnecessary targeting actions. It needs to stop. But some commentators like Stephen A. Smith saying there are WNBA players who resent Clark's celebrity status, suggesting race may also play a role.
There are girls, young ladies in the WNBA who are jealous of Caitlin Clark. She is a white girl that has come into the league. She has bursted onto the scene. She hasn't proven herself yet.
ESPN's Pat McAfee using a crude expression to make a similar point.
There's one white for the Indiana team who is a superstar.
McAfee later apologizing for using the B word, writing on X, "My intentions when saying it were complimentary." Sports broadcaster Carrie Champion also weighing in on CNN.
America has a hard time looking at a black woman go aggressively towards a white woman. They better get used to it because this is how these women play the game.
Kennedy Carter's teammate Angel Reese coming to her defense and pushing back against the idea Caitlin Clark is solely responsible for the current wave of interest in women's basketball.
The reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me, too.
So it's important to point out that when Caitlin Clark started this season, she said to me in an interview, I expect it to be tough. It's going to be hard. Rookies get hazed. Someone coming in with this level of attention is going to get it twice as bad. But what the league is saying is that this particular foul, the way that it happened, when it happened, and how tough it was, steps beyond the line from being just competitive play to something that's unacceptable.
Absolutely. Lots of conversations there, obviously a lot deeper than just about this foul, but it also makes you think about the mental health of all of these players, including one with so much attention on her right now.
Yeah,
Steph, thank you very much. Great reporting. Coming up, how to navigate a streaming scene that's getting more expensive and more crowded. After the break, we'll take a look at the best and most affordable ways to deal with so-called streamflation. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Whether you're listening to your favorite musician's latest album or catching up on the latest episode of that binge-worthy show you love, the cost of all that content is getting pretty heavy as companies bump subscription costs, include ads, or even bundle with other services. It is leading to what some are calling streamflation. So how do you manage it all without breaking the bank? NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans is here for more on this. Christine, good morning. Good morning. So I was kind of interested to hear it's not just the streaming services that you watch on TV, but also Spotify raising its prices, I think, only the second time ever.
Yeah, so they're raising the prices again this summer $1. They raised them last year as well. So that means the premium plan goes from $10.99 to $11.99. The duo plan, that's 2 people in the household using the service, goes up to $16.99. And the family plan goes up $3 to $19.99. You can have up to 6 users on there. So they raised prices last summer. They still have an ad, and they're raising them again this summer. They still have an ad-supported tiers, of course, and they also have a student's subscription that's still $5.99. That doesn't change.
Okay, good to know for them. Let's talk TV. Sure. Sort of TV streaming video content.
Right.
I mean, okay, it's kind of impossible to keep up with how many there are. And
I know.
A lot of us, I'm certainly guilty of, you sign up for one because of one show you want to watch, and then you're on auto pay, and then you don't realize, oh, shoot, I'm spending more than I was on cable or whatever every month. What's going on here, and how can we keep track of it?
So these prices have been rising, right? So the average family spends about $61 a month on streaming services, and half of families have 4 or more.
Oh, yeah.
And look, just what you're paying every month is up about 27% since last year. So there are more options to choose from, and those options are getting a little more expensive. When you look at the range of how much they cost, Disney Plus, $7.99 to $13.99, Netflix, $6.99 to $22.99. And Netflix is kind of the big behemoth in the crowd. So just look at Netflix over the past 5 years. The premium service in 2019 was $15.99. In my mind, I think I'm still paying $15.99, but I'm not. I'm paying $22.99 for Netflix. So it's super interesting how much these have changed just over the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then how does this stack up with cable?
So it's really interesting. You're going to see a lot more about bundling. And I think there's going to be so much innovation in the next year, right? When you look at the telecom providers and the content providers, they're talking about ways to help you maybe switch in and switch out of a service. You say you just want to watch one show. You don't want to keep it forever. These are digital nomads. We keep canceling services and then signing back up when we get a free or very cheap, Black Friday deal. So there are going to be a lot of new ways to do this, but bundling, I think, is going to be really the way to go of the future. The basic cable and internet right now is about $144 a month. Premium cable internet is $217. So put that together. $200. If you just had just the internet service, which is probably, I get mine for $99. And then you add in the $61 I'm paying on average for services, and maybe I have more than the. All of a sudden, it starts to look like you're paying as much as you were for cable. And there are people who still are real cable fans because they want live sports, they want live news, they want all of the choices. So I think there'll be, again, I keep using the word innovations. There'll be a lot of innovations in the next year for how we consume all of this media and how we pay for it.
Right, because the pricing, to me, I keep saying that to my husband, is this any cheaper than when we had cable before?
So it is cheaper. I keep looking at mine, and mine is still cheaper, but I'm having to get more and more creative. Right. And what are the choices they have? There's some exciting new bundles that are coming out that maybe is going to cut the cost for me a little bit because I'm ordering all these things separately right now. So that's where the next year, I think, will be so interesting.
And then aside from just the cost, it's also just, as you point out very smartly, just the habits. Like now I can't imagine just having cable and not having Netflix or HBO Max to stream what I want when I want.
I know. And there are some people who have it all, who have the cable, the basic cable, but then they also add in on these other things. Right?
My goodness. Christine, thank you very much. Great to have you here. Well, we are living through a time where artificial intelligence seems to be taking over online, while so many teens are dealing with a mental health crisis. That is a crisis that some experts say is made substantially worse by the growth and popularity of social media. The average age when kids start using social media is 12.6 years old. That is according to Common Sense Media. That's the same age when close to a third of parents think it is appropriate for kids to start using AI tools. Well, AI and young people's mental health is part of what we'll be discussing in a new town hall, which I hosted alongside my fellow News Now anchor, Kate Snow. We spoke to one expert about how parents can help kids navigate it. Here's part of that conversation. How does AI and what we're seeing intersect with mental health?
Well, AI is based on data, and whenever we put in a search term or ask a question or click on something or like something, that is data that reveals something about our psyche, right? It could reveal whether we don't like our body size and we're searching for, things that relate to diets and fitness. It may reveal that we're in a bad mood or what our personality is or how impulsive we are, that we click right away. All of this can profile us to a degree and understand some of our vulnerabilities. And that's what advocates have been really worried about, is that as a pediatrician, if I see a child, or as an educator, if you see a child who is struggling with some sort of vulnerability, you just want to help support them and grow and build some skills and have a really supportive environment around them. You don't want to take advantage of it. And that's what we're worried about, is that either an AI that doesn't know it's taking advantage of a child or sending them something wrong or false or manipulative, that can lead to worse outcomes for kids who are already struggling.
There is a lot more where that came from. Do not miss Kate and my full town hall, Digital Parenting, Raising the AI Generation. It is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on NBC News Now. It is sponsored by Aura in support of their Digital Parenthood Initiative. Well, coming up, it might be time to go sober on your next flight. Why drinking alcohol on a plane could be bad for your heart. We've got details on an eye-opening new study up next. We are back with a new medical trial that could be life-changing for millions of patients around the world. One doctor here in the U.S. is part of a group working to develop a therapy that would lower the risk of rejection after an organ transplant using stem cells. NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal spoke to one of the patients who participated in the groundbreaking trial.
At just 30 years old, Alex Hernandez has already faced a lifetime of health issues, fighting kidney problems since he was a baby, his childhood riddled with trips to the hospital.
Yeah, looking back at it was tough. I would sometimes cry because, I'm like, why do I got to deal with all this that's going on with my health? All these other people are fine.
In college, things took a turn for the worse. His kidneys failing, forcing him to go on dialysis.
Did you think I may never get off of this?
At one time I did.
His only hope was a kidney transplant, but that meant he'd have to spend the rest of his life taking immunosuppressants every day to stop his body from rejecting the organ. These drugs, which can be up to 30 pills a day, can have nasty side effects, including stomach problems, increased risk of infection and cancer, and can even damage the new organ itself.
So one of the major drugs that's purpose is to prevent the body from rejecting a kidney can actually harm the kidney itself.
Exactly.
Dr. Sanjeev Akina, medical director of the kidney transplant program at Loyola Medicine in suburban Chicago, is one of a handful of doctors around the world trying to solve that problem by developing therapies to help with organ tolerance.
So I think when we say tolerance, we're basically saying is can the body accept someone else's kidney without rejecting the kidney? I think the idea that you can actually be off of anti-rejection drugs for the rest of that life, I think there's a lot of benefit for that.
Now, they may have found a way, using stem cells taken from the donor.
So the stem cells, what they do, they basically reprogram your immune system. They basically tell your immune system to recognize that this donor kidney coming in is actually going to be part of your own.
The cells get implanted 11 days after the new kidney, helping the patient's immune system become a hybrid of both the donor and the recipient, preventing it from attacking the new kidney, and allowing the patient to stop taking all of those immunosuppressive drugs. A new phase 3 trial found that after 2 years, almost 85% of patients were off all the anti-rejection meds. Doctors are hopeful this could one day apply to other types of transplants.
How do you feel?
Alex underwent his transplant 3 years ago. He's no longer on any immunosuppressive drugs. Now a dental student, Alex says he has a second chance to live a full life.
I'm able to work out. I'm able to, play sports. I'm just grateful that I can do all those things now.
Our thanks to Dr. Akshay Syal for that important report. Well, let's stay on your health. You might want to skip that airport bar before you get on your next flight. A new study shows alcohol before or during a flight could have a serious impact on your heart health, and experts say those effects could be worse on international flights. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us for more on this. Dr. Patel, am I in trouble here? Because who doesn't love a little stop at the lounge or a little glass of wine when you're on the flight? So tell us, how bad is this? How does alcohol affect the body while flying?
Yeah, Savannah, majority of Americans share the same sentiment you do. And so what researchers have done is look at two groups of people. They basically gave people and let them consume alcohol before a simulation where they had them at sea level, but in kind of a chamber that resembles like the inner part of a plane. And then another group where they had them inside the same chamber, but simulating what it would be like to be at 6,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level, which is what we're basically at when we're flying. They found that the people who were essentially at the simulation of an airplane, even with just one alcoholic drink, found that their respiratory saturation, the amount of oxygen in their lungs, actually dropped to an average of 85%. When it gets below 90, we start worrying and even giving people supplemental oxygen. And Savannah, they found out that their heart rate increased. So those two things combined can pose dangers in health and risks to anybody who is having a drink, even if you're not a heavy drinker.
Why is having a low blood oxygen saturation dangerous? What are the symptoms that come with that?
Yeah, so, what's shocking, I think, to many of us, both medical professionals and researchers, is that many of these people didn't really report symptoms other than maybe feeling tired after the flight or after that flight simulation. But Savannah, who doesn't feel tired after like a long haul flight when you're flying 4 hours? But it can cause stresses on the body. If you're young and healthy, it could just be that you have that interrupted sleep. But we know over time that that can actually give you kind of poor mental health, poor chronic health conditions. And if you have chronic health conditions like high blood pressure, if you're obese, if you have a number of conditions, this can exacerbate those very conditions. It's why I see diabetics who might be out of whack. Their sugars, even though they've been eating properly, they can't explain it. Now we know it could be related to even small amounts of alcohol on a plane.
Who's at highest risk of experiences? Is there any limit if you're a healthy person who does have a couple drinks a week or something, say, is there any limit that can be safe to consume before or during a flight?
Yeah, they really looked at long-haul flights, so we don't really know what happens in a shorter flight. Most Americans are traveling probably on an average of 1 to 2.5 hours on the plane if you're taking kind of a shorter domestic flight. So we don't really know what the effects are for a shorter amount of time. These are really for longer haul flights. But to your point about who's at risk, anyone who has a chronic condition, I would definitely say that the older you are, the harder it is to kind of process a lot of these changes in your body. And then absolutely for long-haul flights, which might, Savannah, seem like the perfect time to enjoy enjoy that drink. But it can really disrupt your sleep, and it can cause these bad health effects, too.
So would you just like kind of point blank say, I would not recommend drinking before an international flight?
I have said that to people, and then I have actually kind of thought, am I just saying that with no evidence? And now we're seeing building evidence. The reason I said it is because I know it can dehydrate you. It can make you ironically more tired or more anxious. Alcohol has that effect no matter whether you're flying or not. And who needs that when they're in a long haul flight? But now we have the physiologic proof that this research shows that there is a change in your body. And this isn't just older people or younger people. It's all types of adults, and they put them into these different groups. So if you're on a long flight, I would say skip the alcohol, go for maybe the sparkling water to get some of that same effect.
Something to think about before a long flight I have coming up soon. This is rocking my world. Dr. Patel, thank you so much. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Now let's get to your financial headlines and a new round of layoffs for 2 tech giants. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that. Another news. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. Well, Microsoft is laying off some employees who work on the company's mixed reality products. A spokesperson telling CNBC Microsoft plans to keep selling the HoloLens 2 AR headset. The layoffs come a year after the company announced changes to its hardware lineup as part of cuts that hit 10,000 employees. CNBC has also learned Alphabet is laying off employees from several teams in Google's cloud division, one of the company's fastest growing businesses. Meanwhile, Meta is testing a new ad in the Instagram feed that you can't skip. TechCrunch reports the company is calling this an ad break. You can't scroll past the ad, which some users say are a few seconds until the break finishes. Non-skippable video ads are common on other platforms such as YouTube. Instagram Reels and Stories have some video ads, but they are still skippable for now. And popular soda brand Poppi is facing a class action lawsuit. It was filed by a consumer who says the product doesn't improve your gut health as much as the brand's marketing suggests. Poppi's labels say they are prebiotic sodas featuring the slogan, "Be gut happy, be gut healthy." The lawsuit claims the drinks only contain a small amount of prebiotic agave, insufficient to provide any real benefit. In a statement, Poppi says it stands by its product, Savannah.
That's an interesting one. All right,
Yeah.
Silvana, thank you so much.
You got it.
Business news. So-called meme stocks like GameStop are surging again after the man behind the 2021 stock rally revealed he's apparently back in the game. NBC's business and data reporter Brian Chung breaks down what this could mean for Wall Street.
Surprise. The largest rally of meme stocks could get a sequel.
I was watching the meme trades today. GameStop was up 100% pre-market, has come off the pre-market boil, but still up almost 30.
Cheers, everyone. The driving force behind the 2021 GameStop frenzy, Keith Gill, known online as Roaring Kitty, revealing his first public stock position in 3 years.
Till now, there hadn't been any action from his account on Reddit. That changed over the weekend.
Showing off a screenshot of a new stake in GameStop. 5 million shares in the company, purchased for $21 per share. And 120,000 calls, the option to purchase more of the stock later this month at a $20 price. And posting a cryptic reverse Uno card on X. NBC News has not independently verified this position. But after that post, GameStop share prices skyrocketing, finishing the day up 20%. With shares at $28, Gill's trade could be worth over $300 million, prompting questions from analysts.
His last summary of what occurred in his YOLO update, as he called it, he had about 30 million in his account, and now he has roughly 130 million. So it makes you wonder, is there some sort of outside investing going on? Did he just make some really great trades elsewhere that he's now putting into GameStop?
All right, let's explore the different elements of the GameStop thesis a bit further. Now,
the 2021 GameStop squeeze saw social media users banding together to purchase the stock, which soared as much as 1,000%, propelled by Gill's online analysis. Gill, beloved by amateur traders on Reddit and across the internet, defending his methods to Congress in 2021.
The idea that I use social media to promote GameStop stock to unwitting investors and influence the market is preposterous.
That saga even getting the Hollywood treatment in Dumb Money, with star Paul Dano leading the revolt against Wall Street.
Babe, how much did we make today?
5 million.
How much did we lose today?
$1 billion.
So what will the Roaring Kitty's return mean for the markets? At the very least, a renewed interest in trading by retail investors.
This actually brings people into the market, and it brings some excitement and some interest and some research into the market. So as long as you're doing it sensibly, I think it's a good thing for markets, and I think it's a good thing for investors overall.
All right, thanks to Brian Chung for that report. Coming up, just when you thought it was safe to go surfing again, she's back. That's right. The surfboard-stealing otter has returned to bring more mischief to the California Bay Area. Stay tuned for that right after this. We are back, and so is one of TV's most popular physical challenge shows. Amazon Prime has ordered a reboot of the classic competition series American Gladiator, which puts some of the country's best athletes up against amateur challengers in the ultimate test of strength and speed. The show made its debut in 1989 and grew into a cultural phenomenon thanks to big names like Nitro, Zap, Blaze, Gemini, and Turbo. It even made a brief comeback in the 2000s. So far, no word on when the reboot will start streaming, but if you're feeling strong, a nationwide casting call is underway. I believe in you. Go for it. Now to an update on the otter that went viral last year for her bad behavior off the coast of California. Well, she is back. NBC's Stay Tuned Now anchor Gotti Schwartz has the adorable new video and the backstory behind this surfboard-stealing semi-aquatic sweetheart.
Watch out, Central California. She's back. Oh my gosh! The board-chomping, wave-hogging, super aggro Santa Cruz local known as Otter 481 is once again out claiming the best surf breaks for her kind. But despite her viral appearances, scientists caution this kind of interaction with humans is a red flag.
This exposure that disturbs their behavior and causes them to waste energy. And that disturbance by humans it's basically people getting too close. And usually they're well-intentioned, they don't want to do any harm, but they really enjoy sea otters. They see them in the wild. Sea otters are very accessible.
Exposure to humans can be broken down into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is less severe. These are usually unintentional and can result in some minor behavioral changes. Tier 2 is severe. It can be anything from having your dog chase the otter to humans getting too close to try to snap a picture. And finally, Tier 3 is the most severe. It includes any act trying to harm the otter.
Respect our existence, keep your distance.
Now, a lot of exposure causes an otter like 481 to get way too used to humans. And while that may seem harmless, it can cause increased boldness in animals and in some cases aggression towards humans and pets.
We're really having to figure out how to coexist with wildlife in a way that allows both humans and wild animals to survive and retain their wildness.
Which basically means when it comes to wildlife, sometimes it's locals only, and furry ones should always come first.
Our thanks to Gotti Schwartz for that story. Well, let's stay in the animal kingdom. The exotic and beautiful American flamingo is finding its way back home. For years, the birds have mostly lived in Cuba, Mexico, and the Bahamas. But after Hurricane Idalia hit last fall, many of them were relocated to the Sunshine State, and some decided to stay. NBC's Sam Brock is at Zoo Miami with more. Sam, good morning.
Good morning. There is growing optimism that this could be a permanent relocation of some of these flamingos who happened to be traveling last year between Cuba and Mexico when they were swept up in winds generated from Hurricane Idalia, and they ended up here in Florida. Some of them got blown so far, of course, they ended up in states like Wisconsin and Ohio before returning south to where they can survive. The big test right now, can they produce in the state of Florida? And I'm not talking about flamingos under zoo care like here at Zoo Miami, but the roughly 100 spotted in the wild throughout the state of Florida.
This morning, flamingos in Florida are giving people something to talk about. The slender pink birds, known for their bright-colored plumes, once lived in this state by the thousands. Now they could be flocking back to their old stomping grounds.
Florida is ideal. It is not too cold in the winter. It is temperate by and large. It has large remaining wetlands.
According to an Audubon Florida survey, at least 100 flamingos have been spotted in the Sunshine State, with the largest batch in the Florida Bay between Everglades National Park and the Keys. Their reemergence, courtesy of Hurricane Idalia, redirecting them last fall.
We have about 30
There's 30 here now. Has flamingo fans like Ron McGill of Zoo Miami pumped up about the possibilities. There were flamingos that went to Wisconsin. There were flamingos that went to Georgia, Alabama. Those flamingos, after a couple of weeks, said, we're out of here. Flamingos in Florida said, hey, wait a minute.
This is kind of nice.
This is kind of nice. McGill says years of efforts and billions invested in restoring the Everglades is making this flamingo renaissance possible. The exotic beauties were nearly wiped out by the turn of the 20th century, not just because of destruction of their Everglades habitat, but at the time, flamingo feathers were worth more than gold. Now, the bird's unexpected return has captured hearts and imaginations.
So close, such beautiful colors. Really nice to see.
The accidental tourists, stunning residents in Wisconsin last fall who saw pink pop up on Lake Michigan.
I had tears in my eyes.
Restoring Florida's flamingo flock back to historic levels is one of Zoo Miami's goals. Gosh, if they stay here through the winter now coming up, that'll be a huge thing. Flamingos are already Florida's lottery mascot. Now there's even a push to have the pink icon unseat the mockingbird as the state bird. Come on, it's a flamingo! And a mockingbird, a flamingo! Mockingbird, come on.
It's a travesty.
It's a travesty. We got to get this done.
Now, it's not unusual for some flamingos. There's always that one bird to get separated from the flock and end up in some pretty wild places. Recently, there was a spotting of a flamingo on New York's Long Island where the East Hampton Marine Patrol was pursuing a spotted flamingo. But ultimately, guys, they do end up heading back south. It's that internal mechanism, even though sometimes their GPS is a little bit off. In Miami, Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
Sam Brock, thank you very much, and thank you for hanging with us this hour of Morning News Now, but the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.